Now that I remember to actually unmute my mic, I can finally talk about all this stuff. Very, very refreshing, right? So I got this all set up. It's looking all good. And then my cat wants to bother me. What do you want? I gave you a choice. You can go out there if you want. You can go out there. You don't want to go out there. I don't know. I don't know what you're doing. She's like, I just want to annoy you. I know. What? You want to hop in my lap? So while I read this script? Hmm? Come on. Come on. She's like, no. I know, but if I pick you up, you're going to be very angry. That's how you are. Alright, so anyway, this took me way too much time to put together. But now I have something, hopefully, I can actually just make videos with. So, it's going to be a little bit interesting, I guess. But we'll see. I guess we'll start with the general introductions. My name's Anthony, and in this video we'll be comparing Switch 2 with the PS4 and PS4 Pro. I'll be looking at peak and average performance for each cross-platform game I can find information about to measure the maximum resolution and frame rate for each console to get a sense of the performance of each system. Since Switch 2 currently might not be maxing out any of its specifications or pushing past any of the limits of the PS4 or Xbox One, with the exception of loading content due to having faster storage built in as standard, the total drawn pixels per second will be counted and compared across the systems. The math is simple. Multiply the width and height of the minimum, average, or maximum native resolutions. Multiply the width and height of the minimum, average, and/or maximum native rendering resolution before upscaling with the minimum, average, and/or maximum frame rate targets. This is especially useful if hardware is locked to its target resolutions or frame rates, or if you want to give any platform the best chance it's got to win any platform comparisons. Okay, I'll be comparing the Switch 2 across last generation's PlayStation 4 platforms in 4 games: Harry Potter, Hogwarts Legacy, No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk 2077, and Fortnite. Shown here is the pixels per second drawn for each object. Let's see if I can get this showing here. No, that's not what I want to see. Is it? No, this is a way to calculate stuff. Okay, there we go. So this is our... We got some technical snafus there, I guess. Not really. I just forget which buttons are which. So, this is actually an image about, another type of calculator, like GPU or graphics calculator. It's not very accurate, look at this. Gather information on your CPU and GPU specifications. It would help if I'm unpaused. Am I unpaused? Go on. Yeah, we're unpaused. Alright, so yeah. Gather information on your CPU and GPU specifications. These are the backbone of the calculation. Step 2, calculate the total resolution by multiplying the width and height of your display. Step 3, apply the formula FPS equals processing power times graphics capability divided by resolution. If your CPU is 2.9 gigahertz and your GPU is 6 gigabytes, I guess, with a resolution of 2560 by 1440, then FPS equals 2.9 times 6 divided by the resolution, 4.65 FPS. This is obviously absolutely bullshit, right? Like, just 100% certified crap, right? This will not get you anything. if this was an accurate way of doing any of this stuff, then my computer should not be able to do any of this. So, for example, well, my GPU is 8. It's 8 gigabytes per second, right? Or 8 gigabits, right? So the CPU, my CPU is weaker. My GPU is 8 gigabytes, and the resolution is just 1080p. So we're going to do what this moron is suggesting, and yeah, 2.8 times 8, right? And then we'll divide that by 1920 times 1080, and that's only 12.6 frames per second. That's retarded. This complete bullshit, right? Like this calculator is ridiculous. Meanwhile, my calculator, a lot more simplistic, and it actually seems to make sense. I've done this before. I've done a video about this. But this is the first time that we're going to be doing like a recorded live sort of thing. And basically, I'll show you the results. So I guess we'll get started. Oh, right, that's not the right one. We're going to do that button. Alright, so here we go. Shown here is the pixels per second drawn for Switch 2 and both PlayStation 4 consoles in 2 games, Harry Potter, Hogwarts Legacy, or Hogleg, in the leftmost 4 bars, and No Man's Sky figures in the right 4 bars. Red is the Switch 2, or Switch 2 S2, as in the little icon you can see. All this lovingly crafted took 4 days. Ridiculous. In the legend, and you can see the other consoles listed with their corresponding colors in the upper left-hand corner of the image. The height of the green bars indicates average PPS levels. These are the pixels per second for both PlayStation 4 consoles. That green color might be changed when we look at Xbox One at some point, but that'll be for a future video. I suppose, I guess. Again, post-production is still a thing here. That green color might be changed when we look at Xbox One at some point, but that'll be for a future video, I suppose. It took me 4 days to make these graphs. Oh my gosh. I should really exercise my blending muscles. It should not take this long. Not at all. Not at all. For now, because the Xbox Series S has radically improved visuals, sometimes at lower resolutions than Switch 2, I won't compare it in this way here today. I'll touch on the PS4, the PS5's. I'll touch on the PS5's PPS as a comparison later. Can this method of counting pixels compare different hardware generations in PCs, mobile devices? PCs, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles all make use of a bevy of current generation and legacy graphics features and can utilize modern graphics APIs, just like the new Nintendo Switch can. Switch 2's hardware, of course, supports every visual feature like any other modern device supports in their neural RT era. Modern visual features like path tracing, ray tracing, hybrid ray casting, oh my gosh, Modern visual features like path tracing, ray tracing, hybrid ray casting, geometry or mesh shading, and logical or pre-programmed and smart or AI-based upscaling all have various impacts on performance, with the former features being incredibly taxing, while the latter can also be very demanding, but less so. Since there are only a few examples of Switch 2 using AI upscaling, these comparisons with the last generation consoles, which use simpler pre-programmed upscaling, should still be easy enough to compare accurately. These comparisons aim to provide some way to measure only rasterization performance by looking at similar titles with similar visuals and using the internal native pixel rendering and frame rate to get a sense of where the hardware sits on the power ladder. It's possible to compare Switch 2 to PS5 and Xbox Series consoles but it'll be less accurate if we ignore the costs of extremely demanding features like ray tracing. If Series S renders a game at 720p 30 with way more objects, each with greater detail, more active NPCs, further draw distances, with RT reflections and global illumination, all while Switch 2 renders the game at 900p 30fps with lower general graphics and no RT at all, Switch 2 will appear to be more powerful than the Xbox Series S, despite numerous obvious visual shortcomings in comparison to the Xbox console in this contrived hypothetical. And I'll show you an example of that with the graphs that I've created. Wait, Switch 2 uses DLSS. I can already hear you typing this up. How does that impact the measurements? I'm guessing that DLSS isn't that taxing as many make it out to be. Oh my goodness. I'm guessing that DLSS isn't as taxing as many make it out to be, at least on Switch 2. Supposedly, Nvidia and Nintendo or collaboration resulted in the customized variant of DLSS specifically designed for Switch 2. PS4 and Xbox One aren't completely out of the picture when it comes to logical upscaling. AMD created an upscaling system meant to compete with DLSS called FidelityFX Super Resolution, or simply FSR. FSR versions 1, 2, and 3 are not running active AI on local NPUs to upscale an image in runtime. Instead, it's a programmatic upscaling system crafted potentially with the assistance of AI to clean up common anti-aliasing artifacts using elements of temporal reconstruction. Basically, FSR blindly looks for ways to clean up the picture on the fly with a ton of tools, but very little knowledge. All right, let's try that again. Basically, FSR blindly looks for ways to clean up the picture on the fly with a ton of tools, but very little knowledge and no intelligent way to optimize the image on the fly in case something novel happens. This is just speculation on my part, but I think Switch 2 uses DLSS as a means to increase battery life and nothing more. I think I can say for certain that it's less energy intensive to spend a small chunk of your frame times to let the hardware accelerated AI model improve an existing low resolution image than to render a larger frame from scratch. This makes sense seeing as how everyone is chasing this rendering capability. Even on PC, where power efficiency increases as DLSS is used in lieu of higher native rendering resolutions to maintain a fixed performance level. Alright, on to the comparisons. Starting off strong, of course, we have this graph that shows us Hogwarts Legacy running at a dynamic 1080 or 720p, running at a dynamic 720p with a minimum resolution of 540p counted by Digital Foundry and El Analista de Bits. Switch 2 has PS4 Pro-like visuals according to the same sources, as well as a 30 FPS performance limit, which the system doesn't seem to deviate from. The PS4 Pro hands in a better draw distance, higher resolution rendering, higher resolution, oh my goodness, higher rendering resolutions, higher resolution screen space reflections, which could be the result of native rendering resolutions, but that doesn't explain why SSR on PlayStation 4 Pro seems to include broad lighting contributions that are absent on Switch 2 as shown in a video or an image that I don't have here. Let me see if I can actually find that. Alright, so here we have an image and it shows me some information about Fortnite. If I can actually go ahead and we'll say never disable. Alright. So here we have a screenshot that shows Fortnite and what it's going to be able to do on the Nintendo Switch 2 per Epic. This is Fortnite.com news, right, as you could see in the URL. I don't know why I'm trying to point to it with my mouse cursor. You won't be able to see it. But the reality is, this is official information from them. And they say 60 FPS, higher rendering resolutions while docked, and undocked it's 1600 by 900, still 60 FPS of course, greater view distances, see more things in the distance is actually how it reads. Higher quality textures, higher quality shadows, and higher quality water rendering. Nice water. Clothing physics, and it keeps going on, right? Is anything else going to pop up? Ah, there we go. I don't know why there's nothing in that in that image block, but now we have this. This is from El Analista Debits, right? And basically what we see here is what he's measured for the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2, and the common resolution that he's getting from the docked perspective, right? Pixel counting docked captures. And this is actually No Man's Sky, is 914p, right? So that's pretty crazy. We'll move on. This is, I'm pretty sure, for Hogwarts Legacy. And this also, I'm pretty certain, El Analista de Bits. And you can see where the PS4 lines up here. And there's also an unlocked frame rate mode for this game, which I didn't know because I don't have this game. On the PS4 Pro, it renders at a higher resolution, 30 FPS, and 60 frames per second. So this is also Hogwarts Legacy. Oh, right, because this is just covering the Switch, right? So if I go back, yeah, that's PS4, and then the Switch was a different video that he did, and you can see that the Switch 2 is a dynamic 720p, and the common resolutions are between 720p and 540p. So that's what he's been counting in a lot of the screenshots that he has captured, and it's not a lot here. Handheld is even lower resolutions, of course. I don't know why it's in here twice, but it does show 720p with DLSS and 540p with DLSS. It basically is a locked 30 FPS according to his performance stuff. Here we see again the Nintendo. This also El Analista de Bits. Docked mode. This is Cyberpunk 2077, by the way. So here in docked mode, we have 1080p, but it's upscaled from 720p to a low of 635p. That's while it's docked. Performance mode goes even lower, 635 to 540. Digital Foundry counted differently, right? They counted higher resolutions, or at least, I think I have that in here. But we have the Xbox Series S, and the quality mode there is when it's 1440p, and they're saying that it's upscaling from, it can be a native 1440p, and it can be as low as, at least he says the common resolutions are 1440p and 1260p. So as low as 1260p from his counts. Performance mode can be 1080p at 60 FPS though. And the common resolutions, this is a typo, I'm pretty sure it's not 9720p, right? I'm pretty sure it's just 972 to 800p, so little typo there. Pretty certain about that. Right? Performance mode, all of a sudden it's doing 9K. I don't think so. Or what would that be? That's more than 8K actually. So 4K, 8K is like 7 something. I don't know. That's more than 8K basically right there. 9720p, 9720. Oh my goodness. Anyway, the PS5 has a couple of modes. I think I cut this one off. Anyway, ray tracing is 4K at 30 FPS, and its common rendering resolutions are 1800p. Ray tracing, its common resolution is, its target is 4K at 30 FPS, and it upscales from 1800p to 1440p. And the performance mode, it runs at 4K 60, but it will commonly upscale from anywhere 1620p to 1080p, so as low as 1080p. And we can keep going on through this sort of stuff. These are the measurements from Digital Foundry about Cyberpunk 2077 on the Nintendo Switch 2 in its portable mode, in both performance and quality mode, as well as its docked modes in performance and quality mode. And you can see in portable, we're going to go all the way off. We don't care about portable. Portable is, as you can see, a minimum of 360p, a maximum of 810p, right? So it's not competitive. And neither of these are actually running at 40 FPS or 30 FPS regardless, right? They're below that in the portable modes. They're not locked. They're pretty good at staying at 30 FPS, not so much at 40 FPS, docked or portable. But when you're in the docked mode, performance mode or quality mode, but when you're in the docked mode, what you end up seeing is, let's see if I can get rid of that, right? So we got rid of that. I'm going to go in here and turn on that title again, because we want that. So when we're looking at, the portable mode or docked mode, well, we're gonna focus on docked performance in the quality mode, because that's the highest resolution, and it's actually able to hit 30 FPS. But you can see that in the upper right hand corner under where it says docked quality mode, they're saying that it can be anywhere from 1270 to 1920. What am I saying? It can be anywhere from 720p to 1080p. And the resolution target, of course, is 1080p in either mode. But performance is 30 FPS. Hi! Oh, do you want to... What just happened? She's like, no, I don't want you to pick me up. Don't pick me up. I'll jump in your lap, but don't pick me up. She doesn't want to be on camera, apparently. Alright, so now we have... I don't know where this comes from. This could be... I don't know where this comes from. But, comes from some person on YouTube. I think a reminder is in order here. Cyberpunk 2077 originally launched for the PS4 and the Xbox One. This was... I remember what the screenshot is. The screenshot is of the game in the opening sequences and the Phantom Liberty DLC for the Switch 2. And it's, as you can see, not running quite well. In the 30 FPS mode, mind you. So we'll go on. I think that's it. Is that really it? Okay, so here we have the DCT feature of... what's his channel? Brazil Pixel. So this is measuring the image resolution. In this case, it's of fast fusion. I know. All right, so we'll get to that later, though. Probably, actually, in a different video, to be honest. But yeah, I covered some of that stuff. I don't know how this is gonna murder my script, right? This is probably not very conducive to my script here. Where are we even? All right. The PS4 version is effectively visually identical to the PS4 Pro iteration, barring the resolution divide. That means, you know, pixels per second estimates should accurately represent the power divide between the PS4 consoles. Okay. We'll go ahead and start from another spot. Yeah, so apparently I don't have that screenshot. That's what I was looking for, is that screenshot of... Oh man, it should be in here. We gotta add files. We're gonna pause this really quick. Can I do it? I should be able to. Well, that was a pain, but I was able to get this showing. So we have the window that should appear, and now you see the Switch 2 and the PS4 Pro and the PS5, right? I'm not sure which other images are in here, but you can see there's a difference. If I go back and forth like this, oops, there we go, right? The Switch 2 seems to actually get less detail. There was a screenshot that I had. It was just one shot, and I don't know where it is, but clearly, even just comparing the PS4, I could probably zoom in. So like on the distance stuff, we'll see if we can do that. I'll have to do like a scale filter. I know I'm figuring this out on the fly, but here we have a 2x zoom. We have 2x zoom, and we're going to flick back and forth. This is slower, so I'm not going to make as many mistakes. And you can clearly see PS4 Pro, Nintendo Switch 2. PS4 Pro, Nintendo Switch 2. PS4 Pro, Nintendo Switch 2. Totally forgot how the recording quality can be completely messed up if I actually am not using my headsets, so I have to apologize for that. Hopefully it doesn't sound terrible. I'm hearing myself, so that's wrong. I'm not sure if that means there's going to be an echo. Hold on. Okay, maybe there's not going to be an echo, but I'm hearing myself, so that's actually kind of weird to me. Hopefully it won't be in the actual recording. But yeah, you can see that the Switch 2, you know, there are some things that look better about the Switch 2. I won't lie, like the foliage in the very near area looks nicer. I have to be honest, but oh, never mind. No. I'll stick by that. Yeah, the Switch 2's foliage in the very near uh, regions looks pretty nice, and that's probably DLSS at work there. But you know, that's basically it. Oh, you guys aren't even seeing it. Oh my goodness, you're looking at the stuff that's really far away. Let me go ahead and get that filter moved over so we can see it. So I'm using the crop and pad filter, and now I'm gonna just zoom over to this area in real time for you guys, so you can see what the heck I'm looking at and talking about, because I'm looking at a completely different image than you guys, unfortunately. Well, it's not completely different, but it's a different part of the same image. So if I go back to it, this is the PS4 Pro, and this is the Nintendo Switch. You're probably still not seeing it, so let me see. Well, no, you're probably getting it, right? So like that, right at the lower part, I'd say that looks better. Yeah, I would say that looks better on the Switch. Like, the blades of grass actually look a little bit more like blades of grass, and they look a little bit more broken up. So the transparencies, they're improved on the Nintendo Switch. Even here, this you know, I mean, there's way more stuff, so obviously it just looks better. But I'd say that, yeah, just this, just some of the blades of grass, because some of the stuff in the a little bit further away still looks kind of blurry. But it's that really close up stuff that looks really good. And that's just how the Switch rolls, I guess. So anyway, I guess I'll turn off my desktop. Of course, if I close this window, I don't think it'll work anymore. But anyway, yeah, I guess we'll get back to my script. Oh dear, what a mess. Anywho, the PS4 version is effectively visually identical to the PS4 Pro iteration, barring the resolution divide. That means pixels per second. That means pixels per second estimates should accurately represent the power divide between the PS4 consoles and a very small margin, with a very small margin for Switch 2. Now let's try that again. That means PPS estimates should accurately represent the power divide between PS4 consoles with a very small margin for Switch 2. So what are the pixel counts? I'm going to openly lie to you and say that Switch 2 hands in a flawless 720p image at 30 FPS, which amounts to 27.648 million pixels per second. This is obviously not happening in Cyberpunk 2077. And I'm pretty sure that's what we're starting with here on the whole thing, right? No. So meanwhile, the PS4 manages a resolution of 900p at a minimum performance level of 30 FPS, but there is an unlocked mode which offers a minimum of around let's see if we can throw up that image that I wanted. So that's wrong. I mean, I guess it's not wrong. No, that's wrong. Alright. There we go. That's what I wanted. Growing pains. Growing pains here. Alright, so yeah. Meanwhile, the PS4 manages a resolution of 900p at a minimum performance level of 30 FPS, but there is an unlocked mode which offers a minimum of around 35 FPS, with FPS depressing only momentarily. PS4 renders hog leg, mostly, at around 45 FPS. I didn't expect that at all. So the base model PS4 manages 43.2 million pixels per second at 900p 30. And obviously that number only goes up if we assume frame rates over 30 FPS. Since Switch doesn't have an unlocked mode, I'll argue that PS4 is locked at 900p 30, which is 43.2 million pixels per second. PS4 Pro manages an ever so slightly better average performance level when unlocked at native 1080p. So we'll lock the performance to 1080p 30, giving us 62.208 million pixels per second for PS4 Pro in Hogwarts Legacy. To recap, Switch delivered 27.6 million pixels per second, PS4 drew up 43.2 million pixels per second, and PS4 Pro rendered 62.2 million pixels per second. The base model PS4 demonstrates around 56% better pixel shading performance compared to Switch 2. PS4 Pro appears to have 2.25 times the shading performance of the Switch 2. So as you can see here, the Switch 2 is already looking like it's pretty far behind just the base model PS4. Now I get that DLSS has performance penalty, but we don't know what it is, and it's probably, well, we know for a fact actually, that it's not going to be larger than rendering a new frame with rasterization. So we have to assume that the Nintendo Switch is really not using a very demanding form of DLSS, and that's not going to actually have a huge performance impact. Even if it is pretty massive, let's say it's 16 milliseconds, you know, I mean, that would be huge. That'd be insane. Why would you even go with DLSS if it's 16 milliseconds that it's taking out of your whole 33.3 millisecond fucking, your 33.3 millisecond um, frame times, right? 16 milliseconds, that's half through frame time. Just tossed in the trash for AI upscaling. That's only really doing so much for the image. It can't do everything. It can't actually it can't actually make the image 1080p or 4K or even 1440p. So, I don't know. So, next on the list, of course, we'll look at No Man's Sky. This is an 8-year-old title, and I'm going to start with the PS4, which renders at 1080p with a pretty solid lock to 30 FPS as of version 1.2 per Digital Foundry. And that was a long time ago. That's not all. According to the same Digital Foundry article, PS4 Pro managed to double frame rates to 60 FPS with little issue in version 1.2. PS4 turns in 62.2 million pixels per second, and PS4 Pro doubles that to 124.4 million pixels per second. Where does the latest Nintendo console stand? Switch renders the game at a highly variable resolution and frame rate. The resolution hovers mostly around 900p, and performance is basically 30 FPS. If you sit still and look at the sky, a lot of it can reach the low 50s at times. Right? Hang on, what? The resolution hovers mostly around 910p, and performance is basically 30 FPS, though if you sit still and look at the sky a lot, it can reach the low 50s at times. The performance and image quality is so bad, even though this version is a monumental leap over the original Switch version, but I can't make oh my gosh. The resolution hovers mostly around 910p and performance The resolution hovers mostly around 910p and performance is basically 30 FPS. If you sit still and look at the sky a lot, it can reach the low 50s at times. The performance and image quality is so bad, even though this version is a monumental leap over the OG Switch version. But I can't make miracles happen. Switch 2 manages 44.2 million pixels per second. Switch 2 is at least demonstrating that it's a bit closer in power here, with the base PS4 cutting ahead by only around 41%, but PS4 Pro is actually now 2.8 times faster by comparison. But PS4 Pro is actually now 2.8 times faster by comparison. It makes some sense that the most demanding thing about this title isn't its visuals. Regardless, this is evidence that the Switch 2's CPU is struggling. Now we're looking at Cyberpunk 2077, finally. Which, it has very good image quality on Switch 2, but has worse graphics, less NPCs populating scenes, lower shadow quality in most situations, and noticeably pared back object quality overall. The benefits of Switch 2's improved storage and additional RAM allow Switch 2 to... did I just say RAM? The benefits of Switch 2's improved storage and additional RAM allow Switch 2 to load higher resolution textures and individual objects faster when traversing the open world at speeds. I didn't expect Cyberpunk 2077 to be so well optimized on Switch 2. It is impressive how well the port runs. Okay, on to the PS4 version. Let's reread that one. I didn't expect Cyberpunk 2077 to run as well as it does on the Nintendo Switch. It is impressive that it runs so well. Okay, on to the PS4 version. In addition to having better visual settings than Switch 2 in most situations, PS4 also renders the game at a higher resolution and manages decent performance. But I won't say stress points perform better on PS4 than Switch. Speaking on resolution, Switch 2 peaks at 1280 by 720 or as high as 1080p, depending on the source. Digital Foundry claims Switch 2 can reach 1080p resolution, possibly at 30 FPS, and I already showed those images. Despite glazing Switch 2's ability to run a 5-year-old title releasing for the PS4 and Xbox One initially, the game can dip into the low 20s in the base game, mostly while driving, and even lower in the Phantom Liberty DLC, which Digital Foundry did actually show off quite stupendously, I guess I'll say. It's pretty crazy that they showed that. I didn't even expect Digital Foundry to be kind of impartial like that. That also, according to Digital Foundry, is pretty weird, right? Yeah. This gives us maximum per second fill rate of just above 62.208 million pixels per second. But given the performance, oh my goodness, we'll just read it like this. This gives us a maximum per second fill rate at just above 62.2 million pixels per second. But given the performance captures done by Digital Foundry, it's unlikely that Switch 2 is rendering at 1080p in almost any situation. With performance wavering from 30 FPS, performance mode on Switch 2 actually manages to run even worse than the game's quality mode. I'll give Switch 2 the benefit of the doubt because it can outperform PS4 at points and lock it to I'll give Switch 2 the benefit of the doubt because it can outperform the PS4 at points and lock it to 720p 30 for a total of 27.6 million pixels per second. Why was that difficult to read? I'll be assuming a 29 FPS average for PS4 because Digital Foundry showed this game's performance is less stable than on Switch 2. Compared to PS4, which is still delivering better visuals and flexing superior CPU with higher detail environments and what appears to be slightly more NPCs in the world, 900p 20 gives PS4 oh my goodness. That's just like a weird way of reading it. 900p at 20 FPS gives PS4 41.6 million pixels per second to work with. There is the matter of a slightly more dodgy 30 FPS target at native 1080p according to Digital Foundry, or a dynamic 1080p commonly around 972p according to El Analista de Bits. PS4 can range from 45 FPS to just under 60. Oh boy. PS4 can range from 45 to just under 60 million PPS. I'll give Switch the benefit of the doubt and argue that PS4 is struggling to maintain 30 FPS more than Switch 2 and give the system a 6 FPS handicap. This means PS4, we're just docking 6 frames, right? Giving us a truly cinematic 24 FPS at 972p. But even then, PS4 is still managing 40.3 million pixels per second, and Pro averages 70.25 million pixels per second at 1188p, with frame rates at 28 FPS. This means PS4 averages around 46% better shading performance next to the Switch 2, and Cyberpunk 2077 as well. Pro appears to have over 2.5 times more rasterization performance. Pro appears to have over 2.5 times better rasterization performance. Now looking at Fortnite, which runs at 1224p per the Fortnite blog, or news, or whatever that was, on Switch 2 without Nanite or Lumen, and with reduced shadow range when compared to the base and Pro PS4 units. PS4 runs this game at 1080p 60. Wait, did Switch 2 just win its first comparison with 159.8 million PPS next to the PS4's 124.4 million PPS? Yeah, actually it appears it did, coming in 28% to the back. Yeah, that does work. Yeah, it actually appears it did, coming in at 28 point. Now I can't read it. Right. Actually, yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, it's just yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Actually, it appears it did, coming into. This is going to be a difficult one for me to read for some reason. Yeah, actually, it appears it did, coming in 28% to the better of PS4 given the statistics provided. This has yet to be confirmed, though, because I was unable to find any information about Switch 2's actual level of performance. But given what I've found, we see Switch 2 coming out ahead with a firm win against the base PS4. Where does it stand with PS4 Pro? Given the provided statistics from Epic, Switch 2 manages to come in with 13% of the Pro's rasterization performance. The real issue is that according to Digital Foundry, Fortnite runs closer to 900p on the PS4 and 1080p on the Pro. Given the prior three examples, we really given the prior three examples, which we have real metrics for, it's likely that Switch 2 is rendering Fortnite at an average revolution. Revolution? Oh my goodness. It's likely that Switch 2 is rendering Fortnite at an average resolution very close, if not locked, to 720p. 720p 60 gives Switch 2 52 point, we'll say 2 million pixels per second to work with. I actually have it written 52.1856 million, so we're just going to round up to 52.2 million, right? That seems fair. Fair enough. Right? Alright, so we'll go ahead and reread that. 720p 60 gives Switch 2 52.2 million pixels per second. Oh my gosh. 720p gives Switch 2 52. 720p 60 gives Switch 2 52.2 million pixels per second to work with, while 900p 60 frames per second would be 86.4 million pixels per second, and 1080p 60 is, again, 124.4 million pixels per second. These figures align with average resolutions and performance levels outlined in the previous examples. Either way, my look at Fortnite on Switch 2 is more about the figures that Epic has provided, but this is how the power ladder could look in reality. So now I'm going to have to show you that image. Let's see if I can do that. What the hell? Alright, here we go. Here we go. This is this is the information that I was able to find about the game. Right? So we see Cyberpunk 2077 and Fortnite. And we see Cyberpunk 2077 is actually rendering a little bit worse than the PS4 and significantly worse than the PS4 Pro. But Fortnite, we actually see the Switch 2 is ahead of the PS4 and very close to the PS4 Pro. But this is probably how it looks. In reality, Switch 2 is probably way behind the PS4 and then the PS4 Pro. This is just a little bit sad, right? To conclude, this look at the GPU rasterization performance estimates across Switch and last generation PS4 consoles, we can ascertain that Switch 2 is indeed closer in line with the performance of the launch model Xbox One or even the Xbox One S than even the launch model PS4, released all the way back in 2013 even. To be clear, There is nothing wrong with a tablet-sized video game console that uses around 10 watts on battery being equivalent to a 13-year-old home console, even if it's docked. But for the love of Mario, stop thinking Switch 2 is basically a PS4 Pro. There is simply no real evidence to support such a claim, at least not yet. Just for some perspective, this is what RT does to the PlayStation 5's pixels per million performance metrics here. So, rasterization only. We see the performance is right there. If we go to image 7, oh, I guess I don't have it loaded. Alright, so in this image we can see ray tracing is actually coming behind the PS4 Pro. And, you know, if we assume Epic's figures, then the Switch 2 would actually be performing, it would be shading more pixels. So the resolution of the screen is higher per frame. And the number of frames that it's delivering gives it a higher pixels per second performance level. So it's 60 FPS at 1224p. It would be ahead of what the PS4, the PS5 is doing. The PS5 in this bar with the golden RT emblazoned on it and repeated all the way up and down the graph. And you can see the 4K bar. Well, somehow it's way off the charts. And the reason for that is simply because the PS5 offers a 120 FPS mode. So, yeah, when we go back to the other image here, you can see that that's what's represented there. 301 million pixels per second. And way down there we have something. Oh man, not this one. Speaking of 8K images, here we are. This is the image that I wanted to show you. This is actually zoomed in an incredible amount. We'll go ahead and use the filter and just turn it off. Yeah, there we go. Bam. That's same image. It's the same image. That's really crazy. And that's why it took 4 days to make this. Right, just the graphs. Okay, so yeah, Fortnite on the PS5, just the base model PS5, is 150 million pixels per second. Or if you really want to be really specific here, 150,543,360 pixels per second. Exactly. Assuming that it's at kind of the lower bounds at 60 FPS. It's so, yeah, it would be behind the Nintendo Switch. I guess I can kind of show you that, right? Seeing as how this is the real deal here, we can actually go on the x-axis and scale all over, and there you go. That's the old fake not real Switch 2 settings, right? They're not really, the Switch 2 can't really do that, you know. It really can't. If you think it can, I don't know what to tell you. But obviously, if ray tracing is having this sort of impact on the PS5, that at least some figures that are provided to the public make their resolution possibly lower than on the Switch 2, then that's not really good, right? Like we can definitely see that the Switch 2 is nowhere near in that power bracket, so there's no way that it's pushing these sorts of resolutions. Yeah, but I just wanted to show that. And you have to remember that the PS4 is also using hardware lumen for reflections, global illumination, and specular and diffuse for specular and diffuse objects. Nanite is also being used, and the game is 60 FPS, right? So, yeah, there's that. But if you turn all that stuff off, the game will run at 120 FPS, so there's also that to consider. You know, the game is basically just it's way better on the PS5, obviously. Not that you're going to be able to take it with you unless you have a a PlayStation Portal, um, right? So I don't know. I guess that's all I wanted to do. All I wanted to cover for this particular video here. So we're done for now, and post production starts, and hopefully I'll be able to get this out today or tomorrow. I don't really know at this point. But yeah, that's it for now.